Okay, this broadcast has gone live. Dumalong. uh, the digital world has got us doing crazy things. Some of us have become podcasters. How crazy is that? I'd like to welcome you guys to another installment, another edition of the conversations that we're catching up with the tribe across the continent. You guys would have realized that in the past 10 days or so, I've been catching up with different entrepreneurs, with different innovators, people that know the game on the ground, people that can see what's going on, and people that have got some ideas. They've got quite a bit to say, and we are looking for ways to help entrepreneurs solve some of those problems. I mean, the things that we've picked up from our surveys, for instance, is that there's a really big challenge with entrepreneurs struggling, catching up with different. They're struggling with access to funding and finance, just for cash flow and stuff. And we are trying to find ways of getting them to get ideas from people on the ground, people who work in the circles of entrepreneurship, and people who happen to be our friends. I think this is the beauty of being part of the Third Network, that we've got a wide variety of friends who are problem solvers. They don't complain about a lot of things, but they come up with solutions all the time, and they're just always ready to lend a hand wherever it's necessary. What we've picked up from our data is that there's three core things that are currently a big challenge for a lot of small business owners. And that happens to be access to data right now. Unless you have fiber and it's unlimited in your home, you've got a big challenge trading. You've got a big challenge connecting with the outside world, and we're asking questions. We're like, how do we help somebody in that type of environment? What do we do for them, and how can we leverage off the tribe to make sure that people are not left stranded where we can lend a hand? That is one. Number two, we've realized that a lot of these small business owners, my mentor calls them one-man bands, but actually a lot of them employ between 1 and 5 people. On average, they employ about 2 people. Their employees are hungry right now, and a lot of these small business owners are struggling themselves to make ends meet, and they don't qualify. They're not compliant when it comes to the they don't qualify when it comes to a lot of the relief funds, whether it's UIF or whatever. Just from a compliance point of view, there's a lot of gaps, And then we've got a third one, which is masks. And I think around the mask, it's more around innovation more than anything. If you can buy a mask, then buy one. If you can't, hey, I saw something yesterday which got me excited. Ladies' bras, you just cut it in the middle and you take the one and you snip it on the side, then you put it, you've got a mask, I posted it somewhere on my socials yesterday. I thought that was pretty dope because it shows that innovation is closer than we realize. We don't have to overthink it. It's just about taking what you have in front of you and finding different ways of making sure that it's useful, I'd like to welcome my guests today. Seppo, how are you, man?
I'm great, and you, Level?
I'm all right, man. How's the kid in the background?
I've sort of created a short plan for her. She's out a bit with her mom, but otherwise, hopefully, she doesn't disturb us much. But she's doing well. We're surviving. Being a parent and running a full-time business at home is not as easy as it sounds like, man.
Nah, not at all. Palisa, are you up?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. How's the book going, Emmett? Can you hear me? I think about Tabi. Yeah, it is. How's the book doing?
Hi.
Hey. Did you hear me, Palisa?
Yes.
Okay. I'm saying, how is the book doing so far?
It's doing all right. To be honest, ever since the lockdown, the graph of tracking it has went a bit down because of no physical sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It leaves a lot for us to question ourselves around digitization of everything, right? I mean,
yes.
we've been having a similar challenge as that, you know, like a lot of our work is contact spot. We're constantly on the ground training people, running events across the country, and now we've come to a standstill. Now we've had to adapt, you know, play this digital game, and I must say it's not fun, guys. There's buffering. and when you are used to engaging people, you know, when you are used to touching people, and all of a sudden you must be looking at a screen, and you know, like there's this adapting that we all have to do. It's a bit tough. It's a bit much for some of us, you know. But we've got to adapt or we die, you know. But Tabile, how you doing?
Hi everyone, I'm well, I'm trying, hey. I've passed the stage of complaining about the new changes.
The lady that doesn't sleep.
I'm not a technologically advanced person, so I'm learning every day now
No, we all have to
use
learn.
technology.
We all have to learn. We've got no choice, guys. All right. So I'd like to put a bit of a framing to this conversation today, and I'll try and keep it shorter than we normally do. We normally stretch it for an hour, but our data tells us that people can't stick around for that long just purely because data is expensive, right? So we'll try and tap into some really nice conversations. And what we'll do with the content post this is that we often cut it up into segments, and then we share it on platforms like WhatsApp, because we know that accessibility is a big thing. So it's not about us. It's more about how do we get this content out to the people that actually need it, and what do we do with it? You know, there's a Stokfela revolution out there, guys. I think on our side here as a collective, we've done some really amazing things in our spaces. I mean, Tsepo, I've been watching in awe from the businesses that you've set up to the one that you are currently running, being Stokfela, you know, and seeing what you have done in digitizing stock files. That is something that your business was made for a time as this, you know. You should be the one making the most money right now. So I'm looking forward to hearing the stories that come out of this as to how you've been doing and what's the progress on that front. But the real reason why I'm bringing this conversation up and why I think it's important is that there's a lot of people who are feeling a little bit confused. You know, there's entrepreneurs, there's innovators, and then there's other people who are not necessarily in the business side of things where they're running businesses, but there's such amazing opportunities for all of us to get together, take our funds, pull our funds together and do something about it. And we've got somebody like Batabile here who owns a couple of franchises, mainstream franchises in the townships. And because she's done that, she's come out and said, look, guys, there's a correlation between stock files and franchises. And I can show you how you can take your stock file money and buy a franchise and revolutionize your neighborhood, wherever you are. And like those are conversations that really excite me, because when we started out, for instance, as that, it was more about a network of people that get together and try and collaborate and do things together. And then we had other partners jump on board who brought some really serious innovations to the table. I mean, think about when Luyanda came up and said, look, let's start the People's Fund. And seeing what has come out of the People's Fund and seeing the Brownstein stock file that eventually came out and became the People's stock file, and the impact that has come out of that, I just really, really, really get excited. And I think there's something that we can share with people here where we can show them that, look, you might feel like you're stuck. It's because you're thinking about what's the next idea. But actually, sometimes you just need to pull together and then buy into something, because collective investment is so much better than doing something alone, you know. So, Palesa, maybe you can give us some insights just early on. How are stock files doing on the ground?
I think a lot of stock files are realizing that this is going to be the new normal, doing everything digitally. They're almost like forced into get into it. Those that were slowly getting into it, but really not sure about it, now they actually have no choice. And I think it's a great opportunity too, because this is the future. So the more we learn on how to conduct our stock files in a digital manner, the better. Like, you don't need to be going to a bank physically, there's Stokfela. You don't need to be meeting, there's Zoom. So even the older generation of stock files are getting, I was invited to a Zoom meeting of maybe an average people were, yes, it was all over the place. I think 50 or 55. But I was impressed on the way how open-minded we are. We often forget that people can be really open-minded even at an older age. So I was really impressed and saying, actually, you see now, you don't actually have to be driving into anybody's house to be discussing your Stokvel business. You can actually do it digitally. Just do it one step at a time and get into it, and that's how we gonna keep on revolving and keeping up with the times. So Stokvels are really getting into this. They are forced into a corner, those that were not yet, especially the older generation. But I think it's an exciting opportunity to jump on all the digital offerings that are out there.
I agree. It's really exciting time. Tsepo, so you're the guy who digitizes all of us. You make sure that the stock files, the gatherings that we have wherever we are, we're taking them online. Are we actually adapting? Are we moving faster than we should? Are we slow? What's happening?
Yeah, I think touching on your point and leveraging of Ballis, we would love to move quicker than what we are moving right now. And I think perhaps the COVID situation is forcing us now to grind the wheel faster as Stokvel people. The biggest challenge, arguably, has been that passing on the baton. You know, how do we share, how do we transfer the wealth from the older generation to the younger generation? And that's where a lot of challenges basically have started, is to say, okay, I, as a young generation, I used to go to my family Stokvels every day, but I stopped along the way. And what are those reasons? You know, it was not evolving with time, basically. So what the older generation of Stokvels need to realize, that first they need to evolve, not only from a digital perspective, but also from a lifestyle perspective and from the goals perspective. Not only about groceries, not only about burial, but about those opportunities that Patibila will touch on. You know, so that attracts the younger generation, which means now say, okay, right, we're ready to listen. I think the other thing then that comes into play is that to say, okay, if you're ready to listen, you as a younger generation, you also need to take responsibility of saying, I am now going to teach you, or I'm now going to transfer my technological skills. Technology gets consumed by the younger generation quicker than by the older generation. On Stokfela, our average age is about 35, 36 years old, but we do have older people that use Stokfela 60, 65 years old. But what we found, the older people, that when we went to them and engaged them and held their hand, it was a quicker process, basically, right? So yes, there are those challenges that you guys have touched on. But to solve these challenges, I think it's gonna have to be a collaborative approach where the younger generation and the older generation come together and then make it work. I think as an older generation, it's difficult to teach an old dog's new tricks. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. But if you fuse it with the younger generation, it can become easier. So are they moving quicker? The question. Not as quick as they should be, the older generation, but from a younger generation, the pace is very fast, as I've said, from a statistics perspective.
Yeah. But tell me, are we grabbing onto the opportunities? I mean, you are in franchising, and you are trying to get as many people as possible to see the opportunity in buying into systems that actually work and using stock files. Like, are we taking on the opportunity as we see it? Are we even seeing it? You know?
I will say, to be honest, the Stokvel model in terms of revolving their goals is still a bit slow, because the traditional Stokvel, we are still getting a lot of them just saving to share the money. Others are still saving to buy the groceries or buy a property. I have not, to be honest, on a personal level, engaged any Stokvel that have bought into a business. And we are not only saying buy into a franchise, you can buy into any other business. The reason why I will say let's do a franchise because of the success rate. Because remember, a lot of people in the Stokvel, they are not really entrepreneurs only. So you will want to give them a model that is already, that is aligned with what they've already started. So don't take them out of their comfort zone, because I don't want people now to be starting to say who's going to manage a business, and it's all frustrations. But if you say look into a franchise business, at least the models are still there. It's a concept that is aligned with the Stokvel model. We buy stock together as a group of franchisee. We do into a joint marketing. So every contribution is a joint contribution. So at least if you sell that concept to Stokvel members, they will feel more comfortable. But I haven't seen any Stokvel that is saying we are gonna now be focusing into buying into certain businesses.
Is this an issue of education, or is it more leaning towards just being protective of your money because you've got so little? I tend to get a sense that people are protective of the little that they have, seeing opportunities beyond. Like, are we exposed enough?
I think it's three issues here. Yes, education. Then 2 is access to information. And then 3 is the traditional format that some are still stuck into in terms of innovating the Stokvel model. So the education issue will always be there. Even as we revolve, we need to keep on educating ourselves in terms of what's out there and using the power of the Stokvel model to actually access business opportunities. Because there's been this tradition that has been passed over and over, that Stokvels are just for contributing and then sharing, and then you don't see where the money is. It's almost like everybody getting into that and doing the same thing and not necessarily wanting to change into something. So these conversations do encourage that actually you can invest in a business as a Stokvel. You just need to put 1, 2, 3 into place, the agreements into place. You can invest as a Stokvel. You can be a funder as a Stokvel. So there's one thing that when I was doing research on Stokvel that keeps on coming up is the fact that Stokvels really operate more on learning from each other. So if one Stokvel does this and they see that it works, they actually almost copy it in a good way. Like they copy it. Okay, this is working. Let's also try it. And I feel like if we use that in the Stokvel community, seeing that other people are funding business with their Stokvels, how about we try? We've got a business at the corner there. How about we try get experts involved in terms of the agreements that should be in place and how we should be operating and being funders of a certain business that we actually know that is somebody's casa shop, for example. Also, another thing is, if you are in a Stokvel in this digital age, which I believe it's coming more and more, that young people are becoming into Stokvel. We need funders, we need investors. Not everybody that is in a Stokvel is an entrepreneur, but you can help entrepreneurs to actually reach their goals in terms of their business ventures. So we need to come together. One thing that I haven't seen yet is actually Stokvels collaborating themselves, like maybe 3 groups coming together and raising maybe a young 100,000 and putting it into some investment if you can't raise it as your own group. So I haven't seen the collaboration that is needed within Stokvel groups themselves, and I think it's one of the things that should be considered as the industry in terms of getting into these spaces where we really are gonna make an impact.
Tsepo, I think
buddy.
in the entrepreneurship environment, we're copying so much of what's out there in the West. Like we constantly talk about Silicon Valley and raising Series A and all of this. And
Silicon Cape Town.
Oh, bruh. And here studies are telling us that in Stokvel is pretty much like it can't be a venture capital firm. The basics are the same. Where are we lacking? Like, why are we not transitioning over faster? Because this is like indigenous knowledge. We don't even have to try too hard. We already know that we can put money together. Where are we struggling? Because I mean, we constantly hear people talking about we've got a 50 billion rand economy of Stokvels and all of this. If we just put this money together, we can buy a shop right out, and always that talk. But there's not enough of the action. I mean, we're seeing it even at the People Stokvel that we mobilized thousands of people and we said, join our Stokvel, we're going to set up a bank. And Palisa being our person, she'll be the first to tell all of us here that, hey guys, between talk and action, the gap is quite hectic, and especially when it comes to doing actual real work, Like, what can happen here? And I mean, you are currently doing a lot of roadshows, and I am a part of those roadshows, where you're trying to educate Stokvels and people about the opportunities that come with participating in this environment. Like, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. I think the opportunity of 50 billion rand has been always there, but it has not been for lack of a better word, centralized. You know, humans, we react better. We're like Robot Thomas, as we would all know.
Yeah.
Seeing is believing, right? So we say this 50 billion rand, but no one has actually seen it or touched it or tasted it, you know. So we need to create that environment where people can actually see it, you know. And I think the first stage of doing that is actually trying to show everyone from a tech perspective. Anyway, what we're trying to do is, here's your money on an everyday basis. You can see it, you can log in, you can touch it, so to speak. You can transact, you can interact with it. A lot of Stokfel products are just on the shelf and you can't interact with them. So that's the first part of making it more transition, right? And I think now in doing that, we're going to tackle the three things that arguably that Palis is touched on, right? Which is, how do we educate, you know? And from an education perspective, we've all seen that behavioral economics is the quickest way to get across, you know? So we need to understand how human behaves, and in this instance, need to understand how Stokfels behave, you know, and through Palis's research, through the data, and through also the education side. If you can combine those things, and through understanding the human behavior, then you can start nudging people in the right direction. You know, and let's take a typical, for example, right? I think in England, people are not paying their taxes very well, up until they start showing people in their neighborhood to say, in your neighborhood, so many people have paid taxes, you are falling behind. Then someone felt like, oh, I don't want to be the one that's pulling everyone behind. And as Stokfela, that's what we try to do as well, to say, these are members that are pulling your Stokfel behind, you know. But what's great about the people's Stokfel, although yes, not everyone has contributed, you guys are doing communication better. Stokfels need to also improve their communication, you know, visualize their goals. You do, I think, what you call it, a dream board. What do you call it? Vision board. You know, how many Stokfels have vision boards? How many can actually visualize their dream and say, this is where we're going, this is where we want to go? So until we get those nuts and bolts, and yes, education is part of it, we are still gonna slightly struggle along the way, right? But not everyone is an entrepreneur, as the two ladies have said. Most people are followers, you know. So if most people are followers, how do we show them, here's something you can fund without them necessarily taking the full risk, basically? And that's the People's Fund. That is the AfriCrowd Farm. You know, how do we get all these businesses on board and actually get the Stokfels to fund them without actually doing the work themselves, the franchises and so.
I got you. You know, when you talk about transparency, I remember last week, so myself and Pakiso had not paid for a couple of months, you know, and the People's Stokfel. And there's this email that comes through every day. It shows you who's paying and who's not paying. And everybody gets this email. Everybody can see this. So I'm going through this, and I never really pay attention to it, I must be honest. But when I log on, I'm like, yeah, Pakiso, did you see this? It's like, yeah, you are 200 rand ahead of me. So you are even in deeper nonsense. And I was just like, nah, hang on. We can't be going through that thing, you know? And then we paid up. So that, and paying up is, it goes beyond accountability. For us, it was about, let's make sure that if we are going to be talking about certain things in the public eye, we must make sure that we are contributing to our part ourselves. You know, and it's such an important thing. Now, Batabi, you see that? Batabi, there? I'm just checking what we have.
Hello. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. You know, I am really interested in your model, and I'll tell you why. We've got Tepo here who brings all of us together. Hey, Kaki. We've got Tepo here who brings all of us together, right? Through his digital platform. And it's the quickest way to mobilize any group of people to get things going. And then we've got Palisa here, who's teaching financial literacy education, and she's a person of our, but her passion is around making sure that people actually get it, how to use their money better, and she's constantly talking to people. Now, the opportunity lies right in front of us, because, hey, you are the person here who's saying, in the township that you are in, you can actually buy a franchise through your Stokfel. How do we move forward, my friend? Because me, I'm about
every day, that's my wish. As Lebo, and thanks you for bringing that up, because I want to just clarify some of the things that we might maybe take for granted. In the franchise industry, it contributes 15%, 15.4 of the GDP. And if you just look, we don't even have to get the real stats. If you just look into each and every franchise business, the majority is black people. So if the black people can support so much of the industry, so it shows that we can support our own if we had them. The problem is that we don't have any KFC owned by a black people in the townships. We've got KFCs in the townships. We've got different brands, you understand? But we are still scared to invest. So I think within the four of us, we can drive something. Because remember, as we said, other people are not enterprise, but they've got the money. Other people, they've got a platform like Tepo who can make things happen. I've got the skills of where we can go. We don't even have to start with any other, let's say, big brands. We can just look into what are the businesses that can be suitable in a township and use that money to get a formal business, a business that can create decent jobs in the township, a business that can give good returns for the Stokfels. And remember, with the Stokfel, they've got the power of buying cash. So already, that's a very good benefit to say. We won't even pay much of the bank interest because we have money. Stokfel makes a whole lot of money that we can just invest in one business and the returns will be so good. So I think maybe it's one of the discussion that we should maybe be engaging the existing Stokfel as a start. Then create that model to say, okay, what can we buy? Which franchise can we buy? Because even now, there is a very big discussion of Pick and Pay and ShopRite coming to the township. So can't we start by looking at those? Because we know in the township, a lot of tech shops are owned by foreign nationalities, and a whole lot of South Africans who used to own the tech shop went out of business. So maybe just to drive back our economy as South Africans, why can't maybe we look into those? Because it's the food that we are buying anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Simple. Here's a lady. She's very clear about what we can do with Stokfels in franchising in the township. What do you think is next from your end? Just high level ideas.
Yeah, so I think she's touching on a very point. So on the platform, we don't have a franchise Stokfel, as one would call it. So it'd be great to get her on the platform and allow people to say, this is a franchise Stokfel and it's going to fund franchises. And she could be the driver for it from that perspective. So that's just, that comes top of mind. Is it similar to how the People's Stokfel is focusing on purchase order financing? She could focus on franchising. And I think from there on, it's a matter of driving from a township to a township to spread the word. And we can also do it digitally, given arguably COVID at the moment you're on lockdown, right? So how do we spread the word digitally? What kind of marketing material that we need to do to drive that approach? But I think more than importantly, right, is converting. So I think she's touching on a very important point, is how do we convert our people, which is what Monica touched on earlier on. And conversion is a process on its own, right? I'm very much believer on the behavioral side of it, behavioral economics. But I think what we need to understand is that it takes time. So it's not going to be over five days, over a year. It's going to be a journey that we all take. Or we can say, you know what, from the younger generation, you guys that work in corporate areas, instead of putting 100 Rand, you guys need to come in at 1,000 Rand. I know IPIPA is 100 Rand, but sometimes what we do is set the bar high a bit and let everyone say, okay, we're going to focus on Stokfel that diesel franchise, 1,000 Rand a month. This stock is going to focus on Stokfel that diesel health. So also separate per industry, basically. That's another way for us to do it from that point of view.
Okay. Palisa, you constantly teaching groups of Stokfels about financial literacy and how to make their money stretch better. Do you think there's something we can do with Batabiga's idea?
It's definitely a work in progress, as Tepo said. We already have two things working very well in the Stokfel model already: the power of numbers and the money. There's two things that a lot of people and a lot of businesses or other models that don't have. We can contribute and make 100,000 tomorrow if the right people come together with the right capital. So me, I always say you can raise capital via a Stokfel like as quick as possible. We've seen it when you guys started the People's Stokfel, and especially if it's the right people and you go with those that are willing to go all the way with the journey. Because what I've seen with Stokfels, there's a lot of, as you were saying, there's a lot of talking and no putting not putting the talking into action. I feel like when Stokfel movement started years ago, they were doing exactly the same thing. They had these bright ideas on what they should be, and it should be great. And I feel now we are in a way doing the same thing by keep on throwing this 50 billion industry in the mix, but not really doing about it. What I always say is that we don't have to convert the whole Stokfel industry into a venture capital company or a fundraising initiative. Even if it's just 10% of the industry, changing the mindset into let's fund this business, let's invest here with this money, let's do this. Then eventually we're not only transforming the industry, but we also serving the community of the Stokfel, because it's a big industry on its own. So there can be consumers and innovators within the same industry. You can come up with a food chain store that can still serve a grocery Stokfel. So I feel like we're sleeping on ourselves as the industry, because it's not like where somebody's starting a new business, they still have to find customers, they still have to market, see where to market. We've got all the tools. It's just a matter of putting them into place and into action, and it can start with just one Stokfel. For me, with the People's Stokfel, the biggest thing that I'm always driving is that we're gonna be that Stokfel that said we wanted a bank, and now here we are. We have a bank. This is how we did it. You also can do it. You can follow the same model, and then we pass over and over to one Stokfel per time according to whatever they want to achieve. Kenya did it. Why can't we?
Such an important one. Before, there's one more topic that I want to put up. What I'm picking up, Edward, more than anything, is that it seems like the will is there, and as Palisa says, that you've got to curate the type of people that you get to jump onto your Stokfel. Except what I want to understand from your platform is what type of Stokfels are mostly on there, and what are they doing? Are they investing or are they saving?
Well, that's a good question. Most of our Stokfels say they are savings and investing, right? And I think the word investing is very loose for a lot of people, right? So we can say investing and think about the stock market, right? Or we can say investing and actually doing what Batimi does. That's also an investment, right? So as soon as you go above 12 months or long term, we now call it investment. The funny thing is that even the burial Stokfels indirectly are investments, because people don't die every day. So if your stock for your burial Stokfel and your average age is normally 30 years old, the average death mortality in South Africa, I think, is about 65, 56. So you have a 30-year journey. So actually, you're an investment stock, but you're not thinking like one. So that's the mindset. So most people on our Stokfel, they do investment and saving. So another typical example is property. Most of them, they do property. So they buy property, they buy small properties, then they renovate the properties for students. You get farming Stokfels, which says, look, you know how to farm, so we're going to give you money. So you go farm chickens, whatever that you do, whether it's livestock, whatever that you want to farm, basically. So a lot of Stokfels that come on our platform say they want to do that. And then we got Stokfels that say we want to become a bank. So TPS is one of them, but we have others that come over on our platform like BBM. Black movement, Black Bantu movement. They also want to become a bank, a CFI, in which we also try to guide the process as well. So, and which is a very important process from a point of view is that if you look at most successful countries, TFI and touched on it from a Kenya perspective. Cooperatives is what makes most countries function, or so I say successful countries function very well. And the reason is that money circulates within that corporate. Imagine Soweto having a bank, and a bank of Soweto. Soweto in itself is a country, about I think about 2 to 4 million people living in Soweto, and that's the size of a small country. Now imagine circulating money throughout its entrepreneurs, its people, its past shops, whatever it is, street vendors. That now creates more value from that point of view. So that's what we see on our platform, and that's what we're trying to encourage and move forward.
It's such an important one. I mean, we're looking at top countries in the world, the likes of the US and Germany. Their banks, some of their banks are offices. And locally in South Africa, I think KWV, I could be mistaken here, guys, started out as a co-op. Somebody might that's killing us. And my team is going to murder me for that. I'm not sure who it is. But in seeing the patterns globally as to what's happening out there, what do we copy and what do we indigenize? Because I feel like we have enough of the knowledge locally and we can innovate here, but it's the systems and the mind and the small thinking sometimes that kind of hinders our growth. And this is directed at you, Tsepo. With what you're picking up the US.
Yeah, look, I think someone that I think it's part to say that Stokfela should almost be like a JSE where we link businesses and stuff. That's the ultimate goal, I think, but not as a JSE, but as an opportunity. Here's a Stokfel, here's a business. How do we link the opportunities together? And visually, like I said, so you can actually see and how your funds is going. So how do we put these tools together? Palesta has touched on the tools, but Batabil has touched on the tools. From our side of Stokfela, we touch on the technical tools, giving you the ability to actually buy that company share, so to speak, giving you the ability actually to earn the return back. We've introduced the wallet on Stokfela, so where your payments or your claims get directed back into your wallet, and that wallet, then you can now do other things with that wallet, that will add more value, or you can go back into the investment itself, the savings itself, which is the Stokfela itself. So what we need to do is actually make sure that tools are in order, as Palista have said, and then give it and teach you how to drive them from an order perspective. But we also need to collaborate with Batabile, people, making sure that those businesses that we do list on Stokfela, that when you do purchase their share or when you do and invest in an opportunity, they're legit businesses. We don't want another triple M. We don't want another pyramid scheme of some sort going out there. So our job as Stokfela is not only we should give you the tools, but we should also make sure that the businesses are legit from that point of view.
Yeah, thanks, Tsepo. But have you?
Hi.
Yeah. You constantly talking
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, cool. So we are constantly talking about the average business in the country, the restaurant or the local going, that's the money. Like how would a stock up guy do that? I'm
Hi,
trying to
Lebu.
bring
I didn't. Hi,
okay,
Lebu.
let me repeat that. I'm trying to bring this conversation to a practical level.
Yeah, it's better.
You constantly talk about the average business in the township that has been around for long enough that with the right system it can be franchised, right? That is one.
Yes.
And you are also saying you can define as cash that's already circulating in the township. Give us a scenario with any business that you can talk about.
I will give you a scenario with I like Letabo's business model. Remember Letabo
Yes.
the sneakers. Yes, work fresh. Letabo's work fresh. The model has been trial and tested. Let me just hang this phone. Sorry, guys. There was a
Okay.
phone coming in. Yeah. So we've
Woo. But
Then we lost Tabile.
yeah, but Tabile's connection is really terrible. But okay, in closing off, guys, I'm gonna put up a challenge. Wait, let's give her a chance again. But Tabile, you
Hi,
back?
can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
I'm back. Yes. So we've got a whole lot of black-owned businesses that we can even look into them and improve what they've started so that we can get their businesses franchise. We've got a lady owning beauty spa. She has maybe about four branches as far as Polokwane. I just forgot her, but Tebo Wellness. It's a very, very lovely spa with all the services. So we,
Yeah.
we have quite a number of list of different industry black owned businesses that have expanded,
Mm-hmm.
but they are not formally franchised businesses. So with a
Yeah.
franchise model, it's just that the franchise agreement makes it a better a contract between the investor and the operating owner, so
Mm.
that there's no gray area to say how
Mm.
much will your business make. Because remember, when people invest in your business, they need to know exactly how much are you gonna make, and
Yeah.
then how are you gonna make sure that we're gonna make that amount. Like when you
Mm.
buy for example a diboness, they will tell you in the first month of opening, whether you are in Kurumani or Limpopo, you need to make 300,000 turnover. How are you
Yeah.
gonna make that? We ensure that all your products, you measure products. So you, whatever stock that you buy, there's a percentage. Our of cost of sale is 40%. Our gross profit is 60%. So they've got system in place to ensure that you follow that recipe. Hence, they will tell you, without any fail, to say a minimum you'll make 300,000. So if you have a good location where you also put enough marketing, you can exit that. And it's been done over 25 years.
Yeah.
So as such thing to say, we have a couple of businesses that we can also look into, which are black owned, which are already running properly, but
Yeah.
they just lack few system in place to
Yeah.
ensure that the investor get their return on investment.
I think this is a massive opportunity for black entrepreneurs in general, and more importantly, for us as a collective to put our heads together and get this conversation going further. And I'm putting it to you guys live here that let's do something about this. Natalie just got the system, Stefan's got the technology, and Alice's got the knowledge of how you should be running a stock site. And I think collectively with that is the mobilizer. There's a lot that can happen. I mean, we tried starting a stock file, we're having a start money stock file, not so long ago. And we paused. But I'm still new. Very well. I'm not sure what's happening with our technology today, guys. So, I feel like the opportunity is there for all of us right now that we can do something together. And I'd like to close it off there. Anything that you guys would like to leave us with on your side, Seto and Harika? Any parting shot? Seto, you
I
can go
don't think
first.
I got your.
No, I was about to say ladies first. Can you hear me very well, I assume?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I think my parting shot is, I think Stockforce needs to realize that, they have the capital, all right? And if we think about capital and we think about this thing called balance sheet, you know, it's a very strong balance sheet. And how do they leverage off that balance sheet? And sometimes you can leverage it off by actually putting it as a security and lending more money. So that's another way of you thinking, from an innovative perspective. So using other people's money to make more money, or you leverage off your balance sheet. And a lot of stocks are sitting on a very strong balance sheet from that point of view. So that's my first parting point. And my last parting point is say, look, don't be afraid to ask questions, to engage people like Batabile. And also don't be afraid to spend just that 100 Rand to see how far you can stretch it into with people like Batabile. And taking those opportunities. I think it's the sooner that we understand that with risk comes greater opportunity, but also, should I say, with calculated risks comes great calculated opportunity.
Mr.
The mic was muted, sorry.
So I would say, just taking from Tepo saying, which is very true, I think we need to start with the Stokfels that are with the same mindset first, like the group of people with the same mind first in order to at least start and then take it from there. There are a lot of opportunities out there, so Stokfels mustn't be scared to take a risk, calculated risk and legal risks, and use platforms that offer this opportunity to check out Stokfels that you can shop around. What I usually do, I go to Stokfela to shop for a Stokfel because I'm in 6 Stokfels because of Stokfela. So if I want farming, I'll just type on the search farming and see all the Stokfels under thing. Because I get a lot of that question: how do I join a Stokfel that I know is legit and whatever? I believe a Stokfel, they check the Stokfels that are on their platform and make sure that they are legit, and then you saw it. So for me, if you are an investor and you really can't find people to collaborate with, there are people who are already there, like the People's Fund, that are like the People's Stokfel that are already on the movement of funding small businesses in terms of purchase orders. If there's something for you that you want to do, but you don't have people to do it, there's a platform where there's an opportunity to join such people with the same mindset, and let's get it moving. Abanye bazasithola phambili.
I like that. Abanye bazosithola phambili. Guys, I'd like to close it off there for today. But I'm definitely
okay. High level.
Oh yes,
High level. Yeah, before you close off, because I think we should take Palisa's advice. We should not be talking and talking and talking. I think you've heard this call that I've been saying, guys, because I thought another entrepreneur will take, this opportunity to say, okay, let me be the first entrepreneur, collaborate and be in the franchise. So I will now take it upon myself because I've seen Tepo's work. So Tepo, we need to list a franchise Stokfel, and I will find ways, and I know Label will help as well. We'll find people to work with. So I think let's, after this call in the few days, can you send us what information or what document we need to complete? We need to have a franchise Stokfel listed. I will put the financial part of it, the return on investment and the terms, and then we will fix along the way. So I think it's about time that we start something. We've been just talking and talking and talking.
No, that's absolutely correct.
That's powerful.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be taking action. And
yeah, I'll find a brand. We'll find something that will work along the way. So for now, we're gonna look into an existing brand. It can be a small brand, it's fine.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do something so that the Thomas can see a model that is working. So I think we need to bring the concept to life.
And I think what gives Batabile credibility, guys, for those who do not know, she owns a couple of franchises herself. So she knows what she's talking about and she builds up the systems. So that's the beauty for me in terms of what's happening here. I'm definitely going to be taking it. So there's been a request, guys. Today's sound was bad. We only realized at the end that it was actually Palace's sound. We should have muted it for most of the time. For us to have this conversation again. So if you guys are open to it, we can look at it next week, maybe Tuesday, to have another conversation as a follow-up from this. And maybe we can also give feedback by then as to what conversations have we had in the background with regards to this thing that we're trying to do with Stokfels. I believe the Stokfels are a revolution. We've had a couple of nice jump starts and trial runs with the People's Stokfel, Stokfela, and a few other platforms that currently exist. And I think there's something that can happen. We can take action and move forward beyond this. And let's do something. Like I will commit to mobilizing. I am the mobilizer. Everybody has got their core skill set in here, and we can definitely do something that's gonna be of benefit to the collective. We good, yeah? Thanks, guys. Have a good one, and I'm gonna catch up with you guys offline, and we're definitely gonna have another session probably next week. We good?
Sorry about the sound.
Cheers.
Super cheers.
Thanks, guys. Okay, I would like to also just quickly highlight, guys, for those who are currently wondering what is that busy with in this current environment right now? We're launching a campaign in the coming days. It's called That Cares. And from the research that we've done, we constantly find that there's 3 key things that are a bit of a challenge right now for some of the entrepreneurs. Not every entrepreneur is struggling. So for instance, with us at the People's Fund, we're not struggling. We're doing really, really great right now. With all the people that are applying for purchase orders, they're coming through us, especially for essential services and stuff. So we're doing great on that front. And what we are trying to do now is make sure that we can help entrepreneurs who are struggling in different components. We've found that data is a big challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs, like as an access to data from a telecommunications point of view. We've also found that groceries, a lot of these entrepreneurs who employ 1 or 2 people, their employees are not doing well right now. And it's because a lot of businesses, and we've seen, man, a lot of big businesses are applying for rescue funds. How much more with the small businesses who are not even compliant? So we're trying to solve that problem. We're trying to say to you, look, if you can assist 1 or 2 people with the voucher for groceries, why not? Let's do something about it. Like, we've always believed in the spirit of Ubuntu and making sure that we take action. We don't just say on social media, I was about right, or we're praying for you. No, we're not praying for you. We're going to take action and do something about this. And then access to masks. We realize that because the new economy or the new world order is going to demand of us for everybody to wear a mask every day. I mean, I have my mask right here that I wear wherever I go. So we know that there's a lot of people who won't even have that. So we want to do something around those things. And if you can give us feedback and some ideas, we'd really appreciate it. Just type it into our page there and say, look, here's what I think you guys you could do better with around this. And then use the hashtag #FatCares, and let's see what we do. But we're going to officially launch a campaign in the coming days. And we're hoping that you will participate. We would really greatly appreciate it. And we've seen that with the power of numbers, there's always magic that comes out of that. And we've constantly proven it over and over. If you need purchase order funding, there's a number at the bottom of the screen. You can see that. Just drop me a WhatsApp on that number there. It's and you will get an automated response from my number, and it's going to give you options. So if you're looking for assistance from a small business development perspective, it will give you a directive as to what to do there. But if you're looking for purchase order funding, you will also get a link as to what you must do next. Appreciate that. Let's catch up tomorrow, guys. It's been great.